Yeah.
I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU.
And man,
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
yeah, man,
I hope my team they won one.
Yeah.
I hope my team they won one.
yeah.
I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is the Indy Report. How you guys doing? I'm here solo today, guys, just for a little while until Brandon's ready to rock. I hope you guys are having an outstanding week and hope you guys are having an outstanding Wednesday. This is episode 574 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Radio show and podcast, the show covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, i.e. all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, David L. Rose. Shout out to Dr. Kenyatta Cavil and Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We are filming live from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. So I hope you guys are enjoying your week. I'm going to let you guys settle in and get into the chat. I'm going to go through a couple stories of the week. We've had some pretty good things going on from an A&T perspective. We got some big games going on, not just with the independents, but also in the MEAC. And since I got a little bit of time and I'm solo, I definitely will go over some of those games and give you my opinion on some of those takes as well. But the big story for me, man, right now, the town hall, the A&T AAF Athletics Town Hall just ended. I was listening to that. Part of the reason why I'm a little bit delayed, not too delayed. The big thing that I got out of it while I was listening was that 80-year-old Hilton for A&T is very transparent. He went over the numbers about what the media deal was for what we were getting versus everybody versus what the current conference that we're in were getting. I thought it was a pretty good discussion point with regards to that. He talked about some of the challenges with regards to NIL, and now everybody's making this money and things of that sort for the players and athletes. So he was very transparent on what we can and cannot do and what the goals for what A&T wants to be. So I thought he did a pretty good job. One thing about A.D. Hilton is that he's very transparent. He's very honest. He's gonna shoot it like it is. And sometimes being uncomfortable is not a bad thing when you need to know the truth, right? So but that being said, let's get into some great news, because I know we're going to talk about football, but I have to give a shout out to the A&T volleyball program. Right now, they're 8-4 in the CAA. They got a big series coming up against Elon. Tyne Ross won the co-offensive player of the week. This is her 5th award, I believe. The other 4 were rookie of the week. She is a true freshman. She's playing out of her mind currently right now. The volleyball team ended up sweeping the number 1 team at the time in the CAA, College of Charleston, and Club Corbett, and Moore, in historic Moore Gym over last weekend. So there's a legitimate scenario that they have a legitimate shot to actually end up being the regular season champions in that conference. They have Elon this upcoming weekend, and the following weekend they got to go up to Hempstead, New York, and go up against Hofstra, who is now currently the number 1 team. So if they take care of business these next 2 weekends, we got a legitimate shot to win the conference. And that would be the first conference title for A&T while in the CAA, which would be a beautiful sight to see, to say the least. So we'll see how the weekend goes. I don't want them to start thinking ahead of Hofstra, because Hofstra's played really well, but they did take a pretty tough loss last weekend. They gave up a 2-0 lead in their match against Delaware. So, I mean, they gave up a 2-0 lead and ended up losing 3-2. But I just wanted to shout out the volleyball program. I know the football team has pretty much been the brunt of jokes over the past couple weeks, well, past year and a half, really. But you got to stay positive to some of the other programs, because I think a lot of programs within the conference are pretty much doing an outstanding job. But that being said, that was one of the big news articles for me for the week. A&T also had their Aggie Madness last night with the men's and women's basketball program. The ladies are projected to win the CAA in the regular season, and to win the championship in the regular season. The men were projected to be 10th. I do believe that the men's basketball program, with some of the returning guys that coming back, like Landon Glasper, who was picked preseason All CAA, I believe that he has the opportunity. I believe that basketball program has the opportunity to go higher than a projected 10th place. I did run into Coach Terrell Robinson during GHO the other week, and regarding the women's basketball program, the head coach, and he basically told me that he was really trying his best to. He felt the way about the fact it wasn't a unanimous vote for them being first place. They got 11 out of the 14 votes. So he understands that. He understands that that everybody's going to get their best now, since they were projected to win the conference, and the ladies are going to be ready for it. We got 2 All CAA preseason first teams on that roster as well. So I think we have a legitimate shot. They were ranked 17th in the country in the mid-major poll. So shout out to them. So I think overall, I think our athletic program as a whole is doing really, really well from that standpoint. I know you guys are missing the guys from Hampton HU Powership. Both of those gentlemen informed me they were unable to make it tonight, and I made the executive decision that me and Brandon are going to try to make this happen. I just got to fill time until we get Brandon here. But those were some of the news articles of the week for me that was kind of intriguing from that standpoint, from an A&T perspective. With regards to Dr. Cavil's top 7 rankings, I don't know if I have them available. Shout out to Edwin, man. Appreciate you checking out the show today. Let me see if I can find the top. I know the school down the road is number 1, which I'm not going to argue about. I mean, they definitely deserve to be number 1 from that standpoint. I believe right now we got a big game coming up this Thursday with them in South Carolina State, and I think this in my honest opinion will decide the MEAC championship. I honestly believe that it's the school down the road and South Carolina State and everybody else within the MEAC conference. So tomorrow night, everybody should be watching ESPN2. Kickoffs at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think this is a golden opportunity for an HBCU game to surprise folks with high ratings, because this should be a barn burner. It should be a phenomenal game to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to make sure I'm trying to get home in time. Like I've already told my son, trick-or-treating is going to have to be stopped around 7 o'clock, buddy. So we're going to walk around these streets, get this candy, and come back in. He can't have candy anyway. He about to get braces. So he really shouldn't be having candy anyway. But I know he wants to wear his costume, so we will make it happen with regards to that. I think he's going to be SpongeBob, so we'll see how that goes. But overall, I really think I picked South Carolina State to win that game. Orangeburg, South Carolina has always been a house of horrors for North Carolina HBCUs. So from that standpoint, like Davius Richard has never won in there when he was playing for that school down the road. So now you know who I'm talking about when I say the school down the road. There's your clue. Man, all dad sacrifice for the kid. I am sacrificing for the kid. He can't have candy. What do you want me to do? He can't have candy. What you want me to do? I think that creates more disappointment for him. He's going to collect all this candy and he can't have any of it. And I don't need any of it, as you can see. I have no business having candy right now. So from that standpoint, I believe trench play is going to be key. I like South Carolina State's offensive line. They've been playing really well. I think Eric Phoenix is legit. He's arguably the best. He's the best quarterback in Division One HBCU football, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be an interesting match. I know there's a lot of folks who are very confident. Shout out to Josh from HBCU Nightly. I know there's some confidence on that other side, but I think South Carolina State being in Orangeburg is a big equalizer that I don't know. I'm pretty sure Walker Harris has never seen. I think it's a different type of place to play. So from my perspective, I mean, if we want to shout out to Lennon, man, I don't think it was a waste. I think it was perspective. I never thought. I think he said a lot of things. He gave a lot of points. He showed the data in front of him, what he sees, and what the landscape is going to be for athletics. So you can't be. One thing I got to give him credit for: you can't be mad at the transparency. He'll say what needs to be said, whether people agree with it or not. But that being said, we're gonna go ahead and take our first commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the games of last weekend. We only had 2 because Tennessee State had a bye. So we had Hampton Elon and we had A&T Campbell. So when we come back from the break, we'll talk about those 2 games. Maybe we'll sneak in a couple other games that I enjoyed. I'll answer this question before we go to the break. What's the deal on the proposed new basketball facility? Well, from what I got to double check. I'm going to circle back and rewatch the town hall again. But from what I understand, I think it's a matter of we got to make sure we get all the property bought. So it's a big convention center that they want to. There's a convocation center that they want to build, and that's where the basketball team is going to be played. But I mean, we're not talking. That's going to happen. We're talking a decade from now. But I think the first step is we got to get the property. I mean, that's always the first. You got to get the land. Like, I know a lot of our HBCUs tend to be landlocked, and A&T's pretty close, but it's also a matter of whether or not we can buy the real estate to get what we need to get to do it. But that is something that's part of the plan. Like, we have plans going through like 2040. It's going to be a while. Yeah, it's going to be a while. So that's why there's always a debate on whether or not we want to try to improve Club Corbett. And there are some things that we definitely can improve to maybe try to increase revenue within that. But at the same time, we don't want to lose that home field advantage. Like the Lady Aggies their home debut for the Lady Aggies. They're hosting the University of North Carolina in their home opener this season. So we want to be able to keep that home field advantage. So I think there's going to be a delicate balance when it comes to that. In the meantime, since we are so far away from that standpoint, you gotta have the money, and the state doesn't pay for those things. you gotta have the money, man. Like in the state of North Carolina, they don't pay for athletics. Now we'll never get rid of Club Corbett. I mean, it'll probably get repurposed for another sport whenever we get to the point where the basketball programs are playing in a new convocation center. All right, let's go ahead and take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about Hampton Elon and A&T Campbell, and we'll go from there. This is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. So first game up for the docket. So just for folks that are aware, Tennessee State was on a bye this week. Post homecoming, they're on a bye. So shout out to them. They got a big game coming up against UT Martin. Pretty much going to decide second place in the conference. Hopefully Brandon King will be coming on the show for the final two segments. One thing I will say about that game, and Tennessee State as a whole, they have an opportunity to win that conference. If they win out, they win the conference. But they're going to have a tough test at the end against SEMO, Southeast Missouri. That being said, that'll be a big feather in that cap. They can pull it off, or if they keep it close, maybe they can get an at-large bid. Maybe they can sneak an at-large bid in there if they win out and end up losing SEMO to a close one. It's looking like it's going to be there's a high potential that the final game of the season could end up being a Big South OVC championship game with Tennessee State and SEMO if both teams can take care of business, so to speak. But the first game up, we got Hampton Pirates take care of the Elon Phoenix, 41-21. The big thing that I noticed, I watched some of this game, didn't catch all of this game. The big thing that I noticed, is that Elon had negative yards rushing. They had negative 14 yards rushing, but that was due to their quarterbacks losing a lot of yardage. But overall, Hampton pretty much led the majority of the game. Like, they lost the lead in the third quarter, and after they lost the lead, they pretty much didn't give it up. Like, they were down 21-20, and then they scored 21 unanswered points to close out Elon. A lot of folks prior to the season thought Elon had a legitimate shot to be a dark horse in the CAA, but with injuries and things of the sort, it has not worked out that way for them. But that being said, Hampton has continued to make the decision to have a 2-quarterback system. They played both Malcolm Mays and Chris Rosellis, and they only had a little over 100 yards passing, with one touchdown pass by Malcolm Mays, but they ran for almost 300 yards rushing. They had 274 yards on the ground. Jaquan Snipes had 18 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. And Tamir Robinson had 15 carries, 66 yards for 3 touchdowns. So the bottom line, they're gonna lean on that run game as much as possible. For Elon, I mean, their quarterback did relatively well. No turnovers. I mean, Matthew Donnan went 7-14, 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did okay, but it just wasn't enough to take care of Hampton. I think Hampton has a golden opportunity here. I believe that Hampton could legitimately, depending on, because they've already gone through the rough parts of their schedule. I'm about to pull up their schedule right now. Their 2 losses came against ranked opponents in the conference. So, and they almost beat Rhode Island. I mean, they should have beat Rhode Island, to be honest with you, when they played them. But the remainder of their schedule is a little outside of this upcoming weekend. We'll get into that because they got to play Villanova this upcoming weekend. But they got Villanova at home, Townsend on the road, Richmond at home, and Albany on the road up in upstate New York. Considering the gauntlet of the CAA schedule, folks got to remember that last season Hampton gave Richmond their only conference loss when Richmond got a share of the CAA regular season title. A lot of folks forget about that, but that's just what it is. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And currently they are 9th in the conference. They're 2-2. Richmond and Rhode Island are the undefeated teams currently in the conference right now. They're in Luda. Delaware's 4-1, but they can't win the CAA conference title. But shout out to Hampton. I know Jeff and Tariq are thrilled. They won 2 straight conference games with A&T and Elon, and now they're going to have an opportunity to actually to change the reputation. They'll jump a few folks if they can pull that upset against Villanova this upcoming week. So shout out to them they're having a great season. They took the interim tag off the coach. It's clear that it was the right decision. So shout out to those guys with regards to that. Now, as for my alma mater, North Carolina A&T State University, they had another tough loss against Campbell. Campbell beat A&T 21-7. I'll be honest, I felt like we talk about Coach Brown talks about not giving up the big play, and we have a constant habit of giving up the big play. Sincere Brown, he had 2 plays of over 50 yards for touchdowns. He had a 64-yard pass in the first quarter, and then he also had a 64-yard reception in the first quarter, and he also had a 53-yard reception in the fourth. I watched that game. I think A&T had plenty of opportunities to try to keep this game to win this game. They had it within 1 possession going in the fourth quarter, but then they gave up that 53-yard pass to Sincere Brown, who had a heck of a day. The coach during the press conference on Monday pretty much admitted that the team has been having issues coming out of the half, particularly in the third quarter. That's when the game tends to get out of hand. Overall, this game against Campbell, they actually didn't have that problem. I mean, it was scoreless. But it was still down 14, right? We were down 14-0. We're down 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. So we were pretty much playing from behind the entire time. When you look at some of the stats from the game, Justin Fomby, he had 2 turnovers. He threw for 2 interceptions. He went 20 for 40 for 185 yards and 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The quarterback for Campbell, Mike Chandler, didn't really have to throw the ball too much. And they also had Chad Moscow. Both of them threw for a touchdown. They had 2 quarterbacks playing. They had 8 for 12 for 111 yards. Part of the reason why they had 2 quarterbacks playing is because the starting quarterback got injured. So I felt like that was a golden opportunity for A&T to get a win, get a win in the conference. They still have not won a conference game since they've entered the CAA. So I thought if there was a game that they had an opportunity to win, it was this one. But when you have a wide receiver get 5 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, it makes it hard to win. And when you turn the ball over as much as we did, it makes it very difficult to win. Our wide receivers did relatively well. Jakari Caldwell, 6 catches, 47 yards and a touchdown. I just think A&T, this has always been a year where we knew that we didn't have a shot to win. I knew, at least from my opinion, we didn't have a shot to win the conference, but I expected us to be more competitive than we currently are. And unfortunately, that has not been the case. The fan base, we'll see what the attendance is going to be for their game, this upcoming game this weekend against William & Mary at home. It is the home game after GHO. So that tends to be our least attended game historically. So we'll see if the fans come out for this game. It would be a telltale, but the true telltale is probably going to be the final home game against Elon to get an idea of whether or not how the fans feel about everything that's been going on with this football team. But that being said, Campbell, they played well, even though the coach is a hothead. He got flagged and things of the sort with the back and forth he had with the refs. But overall, I haven't seen enough progress with A&T up to this point to have a warm and fuzzy. The players are playing their heart out, but I think we're at the point where it's time to start making the accountability on others, particularly the coaching staff. I don't make those calls, but there's some things that I've seen that I have not been thrilled about. I haven't sat down to start doing the comparisons to last year versus this year yet. I'll be honest, to be transparent with you guys, I'm concerned. I kind of don't want to, because I'm afraid about what I'm going to see. But I will do at some point I will do a full picture to make that year-over-year comparison. I will say this. I felt like last year we were more competitive from a competitive standpoint. I felt like we've been more competitive last year than we are this year so far. But it's not going to get easier at this point. Our next 4 games, we got William & Mary at home. We got Villanova. After that, on the road, we have Townsend. and then we have Elon to close out the season. So it's not going to be a fun ride. I see one possible win, maybe against Elon, depending on what vibes we get from them and how they're doing from their standpoint. Because I know their season has been disappointing on their end as well, but they've had a lot of injuries and things of that sort. So we shall see if that will be the case from that standpoint. But overall, I think A&T football we haven't seen this team as bad probably since after I graduated 20 years ago. When we had a 7-year drought where we didn't have a winning record, including 2 winless seasons and a 1-10 year. So it's rough out there for A&T football. And I might be saying that as an understatement. I'm going to go through the chat real fast before I take our next commercial break. Upon our return to the commercial break, we will hopefully we'll have Mr. King. I might just talk about my game and wait on Mr. King to talk about the Tennessee State game after the break. Shout out to Lennon. He's talking about using that money for using the Mackenzie Scott money for the convocation center. It ain't enough, for one, and for two, that money was used for scholarships, and it pretty much the majority of that money went towards endowments to help the endowment number, which was pretty much the right call. Oh man, shout out to Johnny. I heard you say HBCU could make some money compared to some FCS coaches. I have not, and I can't speak for Scotty, but I will say, like, when you look at some of the other coaches in the FCS space and like the Big Sky and the MV Missouri Valley, they make less than some of our top HBCU coaches. So, I mean, there's always a debate about it, but I think the other thing too is that I think what advantage that those guys have from a coaching standpoint is that they probably get a bigger pool for their assistants that HBCUs do not have. So while though the head coaches make a lot of money, sometimes those assistants don't because of the assistant pool. I know I can, from A&T's perspective, I think we've improved upon that going into the CAA. But I know that when you look at some coaches, a lot of times you'll see that the head coach makes a lot of money, but the assistants don't make near much. And I always say this too, when it comes to like a head coach, your assistants matter. But it all depends. And the other factor that comes into play too when you talk about HBCU coaches' pay is that they're dealing with a lot of different set of challenges that maybe some of the other FCS coaches are not dealing with. So there's that too. So I mean, there's always a debate about whether or not they're making too much or making enough or things of that sort. It's always kind of dependent on that. But I do think it's important that we try to take care of the assistant coaches as well, because I think those guys are pretty much are a big key to the success of football programs. But that being said, we're gonna go ahead and take our next break. When we come back, we'll go into the 3 games that are coming up next week for Hampton, A&T, and Tennessee State. I'll plan on going over it. Like, Brandon isn't here yet. Hopefully Mr. King will arrive during the break. If not, we'll go through all 3 games. And we'll go from there. So I will be back after the break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mister, this script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We got a partner in crime, Mr. King. How you doing today, sir?
What's going on, my brother? How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just in time, man. So how you feeling? How you feeling today?
I can't complain. I actually got to go to the gym today, so got my day off to a halfway decent start. So that's always a good thing. It'd been a while since I had a chance to touch the steel. So
okay. I never touched the steel. That might be part of my problem right there.
I went to the doctor and they said it without saying it. It was like, you might want to drop a few lbs. Like, point taken. All right.
Nah, I gotta get out and get on the bike and walk more and get that meal going, man. That's me at this point. I just gotta get the cardio better on my end. But all right, man. Good segue. We got 3 games coming up this week. In the HBCU independent sphere.
Yes, indeed.
All right, there's some games where actually for y'all, for Tennessee State, you got a big game against UT Martin.
Huge game.
Yeah,
Huge
man.
Game.
If you can pull this one off, my man, we might have a Big South OVC championship game at the end of the season. Y'all can close it out.
This is a really, really big matchup, and kind of what we talked about a little bit last week. They're at a similar point where they were last year. Late in the season, you're 6-2, you're coming in with some momentum, and they laid an egg the rest of the season. But I will tell you from watching this team, from somewhat being around them kind of early on in the season and talking to Coach George and some of the guys, the vibe around this team, it feels different. I think kind of going through that, while it was painful to watch, it kind of has prepared them to get back to this point, and hopefully they've learned the lessons from last year, and they understand not only what's right out in front of them, but at the same time you got to take care of business and eat that elephant 1 week at a time. And this is a big week. They've got a challenge in front of them. In UT Martin, they're dealing with an offense in a lot of ways that's somewhat similar to them. So they've got their work cut out for them. I feel overall. Are we picking? Are we doing our picks yet? Because not, I'm gonna hold off.
No, go for it. We'll pick per game as we talk through the games.
Okay. I think top to bottom, Tennessee State has the better team. I will pick them to win, but I will say, though they kind of broke that trend a little bit against Eastern Illinois, 4 of their past 5 games, OVC Big South games, they've gotten off to slow starts in which they found themselves down by double figures. If they can avoid that, I think there's a very good chance of them winning this football game. So they've got to contain the running back, who is he's the top rated from a rushing yards perspective, the top runner in the conference. He's got over 836 yards, and I want to say 12 touchdowns, but don't quote me on that.
That's fine.
So he's run for over 100 in 5 of his 8 games this year. So they've got their work cut out in front of in terms of dealing with him. So if they can somewhat bottle him up, Draylon Edwards can continue to play with the consistency and make the decision making that he showed for most of the season. Because I'll be honest, that was when we did our preview of this team coming into the season. The quarterback position was an area of emphasis. Would somebody step out and be able to seize that mantle? And if it was going to be Draylon Edwards, would he be able to overcome some of the decisions? Because you would watch him and he would make a play, you'd be like, wow. And then a few plays later, he'd make another play and you're like, what are you doing? And so it's been a lot more of the wow and a lot less of the what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So if he can continue to play at that level, I think that they should be able to get the win over Martin this weekend.
Yeah, I remind me, is this in Tennessee State? Is that Tennessee State?
Yeah, it's a home game.
Oh, that's big, man. Y'all gotta pack it for that one, guys.
Yeah,
this is a big one. This is a big one, to say the least, because if y'all can pull that and then you guys keep taking care of business, you're going to have a nice collision course with Southeast Missouri. But I have a question for you regarding that before we go to the other 2 games.
Sure.
Hypothetically, if
Okay.
they go into the game against Southeast Missouri, into the final game of the season, and if it's a close game, do you see a scenario where it's possible that Tennessee State could still get an auto bid? Not an auto bid, but an at-large bid, excuse me, into the FCS playoffs?
I will say it depends on if they've won out, and then if SEMO beats them to win the championship and it's a close game,
Mm-hmm.
then I think there's a chance that you could still get that at-large bid, because now you're a Tennessee State team ending your season, 9-3. You finish second in the conference and you lose a close game within that conference. You're if you've won, obviously you're ranked in the top 25. So you've got that feather in your cap, and you probably rank a little bit higher if you continue to win. So I think if they can, if it's similar to if they play, I tell you what, if they play them like Martin played, I believe it was 42-45 when Martin played them. So if they play them something similar to that, I think there's still a good chance that they get a postseason bid.
All right. You mentioned that Tennessee State is 25th in the country. UT Martin is not ranked. Southeast Missouri is. They're 6th in the country. They're 6th in the nation. So yeah, I agree with you. I think if you can keep a top 10 team, if you can win, bonus, right? Because they're going to get an at-large if they win. If they keep rolling, they're going to get an at-large bid, win or lose. In my opinion. But if y'all can still auto bid, that's optimal. But even if you can't, and it's a close game, I think there's a strong argument, because especially if you still got, if you win the next 3, most likely you're still going to be ranked, so you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
So that's a good place to be. Speaking of ranked teams, number 24 William and Mary comes to Truist Stadium to play North Carolina A&T this weekend. And it's an angry William and Mary team because they lost to Stony Brook 35-13 the previous week. As we mentioned before, A&T lost to Campbell 21-7. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't see, and before I say that, this is pretty much Mike London and Vincent Brown. They were on the same coaching staff. Vincent Brown was a defensive coordinator in a few stops, not just William and Mary. It was DC Howard too, if I recall. So he's coached with Mike London for a long period of time. They're tight. That's one of his closest friends, according to Vincent Brown, and so they're very, very tight. So they know each other very well. However, William and Mary is really good. But they did have a tough loss against Stony Brook. Kind of amazing to turn around that Stony Brook has had, considering they were winless last year.
Yeah.
Because Stony Brook right now is ranked 20th in the country. That being said, I don't see a path for A&T to pull this upset. Based on what I've seen so far from this team, I've been saying we tend to play better on the road than at home all season. The data shows that. Where you talk about margins and things of that sort, we almost beat Richmond, who's 16th in the country right now on the road. So I don't see a scenario where we have a chance to beat them because we've had trouble stopping the run. They're very strong in that. I'm just hoping it doesn't become like it was against Hampton, because Hampton got obliterated against those guys. I think our running game has to improve dramatically for us to have any type of a shot to control the clock. But I just don't see it. Our defensive line is not where it needs to be. They won't have to pass on us because we've had trouble stopping the run all season. So I wish I had more positive things to say about our chances against William and Mary, but I can go with what I see.
Yeah, any time, and if a ball club cannot stop the run, I mean, it's going to be a tough road to hold to beat anybody. I mean, it's one of those things. We hear coaches. You've talked and been on these calls, and you hear them across the board. They say that, well, we got to stop the run. Got to be able to run and stop the run.
Well, you know what our coach says, they got to stop the big explosive play, and we have not been able to do that. So, and I think that right there is a bigger concern for me. Like we give up explosive plays constantly. Like I think if we had a way to not give up explosive plays against Campbell, we probably would have had a shot to win. And I didn't even mention the fact that our kicker missed 2 field goals during that game as well. So we had a lot of opportunities to beat Campbell last week. So I just think it's just going to be a tough road to take care of William and Mary. I thought that last week was an opportunity to get that win, that first conference win. I just think it's going to be tough to go up against William and Mary this weekend.
Let me ask you this, since you said the giving up the explosive plays. So, and I'll admit I haven't watched as much of A&T this year as in years past. So when they're giving up these explosive plays, is it a matter of schematically they're hold on, the wind blew. The wind's out here.
Oh man. No worries, man.
Let me hold it. So is it, just them getting caught in bad situations schematically? Is it, just guys just getting beat on individual matchups? What seems to be the source of them giving up these chunk plays like that?
It's a combination, man, to be honest with you. I think I've been under the belief that the coaching staff has not utilized the talent of their personnel. Like, I don't think they're leveraging it. I think they're trying to run their scheme, and if their scheme works, cool. If it don't, okay, right? And I think you kind of need to adjust to the talent that you have. Absolutely. I mean, I think Karan Prunty has a legitimate shot to get into the NFL, but there's been so many occasions where there's been miscommunication. Like the last touchdown that Campbell got was a broken play. Like nobody was covering the guy, and he was gone. Like best wide receiver, wide open, gone. Like insanity, right? And we do that at least once a game. And it was backbreaking last week because we just scored a touchdown. We were within one possession that the defense could just hold. We have a shot to tie this thing in the fourth quarter, and big play. Nobody near him. Yeah, it's so frustrating and demoralizing. So, it's been a combination. It's some of it's been schematic because we've had trouble guarding the middle, right? Slant routes, things that's what we've had trouble. Those slant routes returning to big plays, and then what happened last week was just straight miscommunication. So it's just been rough, man. I know you say you haven't watched too much A&T, and I will say it's tough to watch. It's very, very, very tough to watch.
I have in years past, so I've kind of been like an observer from 100 miles up. But I was looking at some of the scores. I was like, wait a minute here, what's going on in Greensboro? Hey.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you weren't here earlier when I was talking about the town hall a little bit, and they asked the AD the status of the football coach, and obviously he's not going to say what he wants to say, but I can read between the lines of what he said. Said it's a personnel thing. Can't really discuss it here. So, which is true. It is a personnel thing. You can't really discuss it there in the public setting.
That is true. But I would think, though, if you ask Ashley Robinson about T.C. Taylor, he'd be like, he's our coach.
Yep.
And so by not,
I mean,
saying
I'm pretty sure I might have missed the he's our coach part because I was unfortunately couldn't catch the whole thing. I'm gonna go back and watch the replay, but I mean, it was interesting how transparent he was about a lot of things regarding the athletic department at A&T. I mean, I've said this all the time. Everybody else is doing okay. It's the football program is the only issue right now. Like I think all the other sports have been pretty competitive. Yeah. I mean, every sport has outdone their preseason expectation from the conference except for one sport, and that's football. So,
yeah, and you talked about it last week. Track is still doing their thing. Basketball and women's is picked to win, and even on the men's side, they've played very well, both in and out of conference. And you got what was Glassman the conference leading scorer last year?
Before he got hurt, he was. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that I gotta double check, but I'm not sure that continued. But he was unanimous All CAA first team.
Yeah,
going into the season. So
he is a dude. He is a dude.
Fun fact about that: he entered the portal, and we convinced him to come back. Really? So yeah, he entered the portal after the season was over, and we convinced him to return. So. Yeah, I think we're going to be higher than the 10th place finish that they think we're going to be. On top of that, we got a transfer from Maryland as well. So I think we're going to be good this year. I think we're going to be much better than our 10th place finish. If we can just stay healthy. I mean, what killed us last year was all the injuries.
Yeah.
When Glassman went down, we already lost like three big men going into the season. And then two. And then we had Jason Murphy, but he wasn't cleared yet to play because of the transfers. And all the rules with the transfer portal and all the rules. But once they opened up the floodgates and Jason Murphy came back, we started playing better. Then Glasper got hurt because we were near the top of the conference standings at the beginning of the conference play last year, and then the injuries started piling up, and then that was it from there.
Just kind of derailed y'all. But if y'all can stay healthy, I think y'all can make some noise. From what I saw last year, and the fact that he's coming back and some of the stuff y'all added, I see y'all I don't see a 10th place ball club.
No.
At all.
No, and they got some good teams in that conference. Let me be clear.
They do.
They got some good teams in that conference. But I think we'll compete with those guys, man. Like we've already seen some level of success within that conference in basketball on the men's side as well. All right, so we got to talk about this final game, but this is going to be very quick and swift, only because Hampton's going up against number 13 Villanova.
Woo, yes.
All right. Now, I'm going to be clear when I say this. I think they're at home. Hampton's at home. Going to be tough, man. Like I don't know if they're going to be able to pull this off. Villanova averages 176 yards per game.
Yes.
They're a really good running team. So we'll see. I think because Hampton's at home, if they can try to start fast, if they can control the clock, they might have a shot. I'm not a fan of the 2 quarterback platoon system they're doing. It'd be nice if they just pick a guy.
Yeah,
the guy should be Mays, but I have a feeling that I think this game against Villanova could potentially bite them. From that regard, Villanova's okay when it comes to stopping the run. I mean, defensively, they give up 140 yards. Well, 140 yards is a lot. I mean, they give 140 yards per game to their opponents on the run game. But we got to be able to stop their run. Like, Hampton's got to be able to stop their run to have a shot to get this game.
Absolutely. Have to be. It's just like we talked about earlier. If you can't stop the run, I mean, you're going to have a hard time getting – your defense is going to have a hard time getting off the field. When those crucial first downs that the defense – may need to stop the opponent from. If you can't do it, it's you're putting such the handcuffs on your offense in terms of a margin for error. It's all you have. Their level of play has to be so out in front of that to kind of overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, granted, the last time the two teams played was 2 years ago. and Villanova beat them by 2 touchdowns. But I mean, a lot has changed within 2 years. And like I said, they got to be able to stop the run, and if they can't, it won't be 24-10 when the final buzzer goes off. I mean, Hampton might have 10, but Villanova will probably have a lot more than 24.
Yeah, man. I that's the only concern. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on that game this weekend, man. I do have Flow Sports, so I get to catch all the CAA action, so to speak. But Adam's spot on, man. Like last week, your guys beat up on Elon, but your quarterback play's got to be better than what it was last week to have a shot against Villanova.
Yeah,
Point blank, period.
And it's just like you said. I'm not a fan of the platooning of the quarterbacks because I'm from the school of thought. If you're playing 2, it's because you don't have 1.
And they have one. That's the thing that's so devastating about it. They got one. They got one. They have one. They have one. They should be playing Mays. They absolutely should be playing Malcolm Mays.
I've heard that a lot.
Oh God, I mean, if Jeff or Reek was here, they'll let you know all about it. All right, so we're gonna take our last break, and I'm gonna ask Brandon a question, and then we're gonna close the show out.
Oh boy!
All right, no, it's an easy question, man. It's an easy question. I have easy questions, so we'll be back right after this short break.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Laverne Experience and Sunshine Anderson. Immerse yourself in interactive art, take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app that brings Eatonville's legacy to life from your phone. Enjoy family-friendly STEM activities and explore over 80 unique vendors. Please don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets or to become a vendor. We'll see you in Eatonville, the oldest Black incorporated municipality in the country.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome back to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. All right, here's the question, man, because we ain't got too much time left, but this is a very important question that I must ask you, sir.
All right.
Tomorrow night, Thursday night, MEAC football. I call it the MEAC championship game. I know they don't like it, but that's what it is. It's the MEAC championship game. The school down the road versus South Carolina State in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Walker Harris versus Eric Phoenix. Who you got, man?
I'm going to make this easy. I know that Central has been, or as you refer, the school across the way. Up the way. They've been playing well, but man, I look at South Carolina State, and it's almost, I don't want to say gone under the radar, but they've just gone about their business stacking wins, and Eric Phoenix is playing at such a high level. He's come in and really picked up a lot of where he left off of what he was doing at Benedict. Mm-hmm. And with the game being at Orangeburg, I think with the advantage that lift is going to give them, and especially with what they're doing to try to get people in the stands, I think South Carolina State's going to win this one. And I definitely would not be surprised to see them in Atlanta in December. I mean, I think they're playing that well.
The winner of this game is going to Atlanta. I stand by that. I think whoever wins this game is going to Atlanta. If the school down the road wins, they'll have 3 conference wins already. It's going to be very tough for somebody to overtake that at that point. South Carolina State would have 2, but I mean they still have to. They'll play Norfolk and they'll play Howard and they'll play Morgan State, and as long as they win 2 out of those 3, they'll be fine. So I'm also picking South Carolina State to win this. Right now, the school down the road is the 1-point favorite. Based on lines, some got it 1.5. But I still think South Carolina State's going to win this game outright. I think that It's been a while since the first year head coach in that conference wins it. So it'll be a sight to see if Chendisberry can pull it off. But yeah, so that's who I got. I got to close out the show. Appreciate you coming by, Brandon. Appreciate you making it in, man. I'm glad we can talk about your boys because I think y'all got a big game against UT Martin. I wanted to make sure you were here. All right, so
look, if we were 2-6, I would be here. I just wouldn't have my chest out as much.
Well, you see, my chest has been caged for a very long period of time, so you know it's just what it's going to be for now. I mean, basketball season is approaching. Basketball season starts next week. Volleyball season looking good, so I can't complain right now. But thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Got to read better. I am David L. Rhodes, and this is Brandon King. And shout out to Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports. We hope you enjoyed. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and Sunday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Check out Brandon on sneakershoptalk.com. Shameless plug for you, my man. And follow Dr. Kenyatta Cavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside HBCU Sports Lab 1, Facebook, Inside HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big and continue to move forward. We'll talk to you soon. Brandon?
Of course.
Lecture
dismiss.
Dismiss.